What if Oscar Piastri's nightmare in Baku wasn't just a bad weekend, but the first crack in McLaren's so-called silent assassin? Fans are already whispering, did something change after Monza that we're not being told? Because here's the thing, Piastri hasn't just been fast this year, he's been bulletproof, calm under pressure, precise like a surgeon, and ruthless when opportunities opened up. And yet, in Azerbaijan, we saw the complete opposite. A jump start, an anti-stall, a lockup into the barriers, and suddenly, the championship leader looked like a rookie again. Andrea Stella called the mistakes uncharacteristic and promised we won't see this anymore. But doesn't that sound like a man trying to convince himself as much as the fans? Could this really just be eagerness? Or was Monza, where Norris and Piastri clashed inside McLaren, the moment that quietly rattled his rhythm? Before we go deeper, hit that like button if you believe Piastri will bounce back stronger, and subscribe if you want every twist of this McLaren civil war broken down race by race. But here's where the mystery deepens. While Piastri was spinning into the barriers, Lando Norris was stuck in his own loop of frustration. For the second race in a row, his pit stop collapsed under McLaren's pressure. Monza first, Baku again, same story. And every time, it feels like the team's sharp execution is slipping. Norris dragged the car to P7, but listen to Andrea Stella's words carefully. No other driver could have scored more in Lando's car today. On the surface, that's praise. But beneath it, a confession that the car, the strategy, the mechanics, all are falling short. Now, when two teammates are fighting for a title, these small errors don't just cost seconds, they breed suspicion. Fans are already asking, is McLaren failing under the weight of their own expectations? Or is there something more subtle happening behind closed doors? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this just bad luck for Norris? Or is the team unconsciously favoring Oscar until his Baku crash shattered that illusion? And don't forget, subscribe now because what's coming in part 3 could flip this whole McLaren narrative on its head. Andrea Stella didn't hesitate to defend his young star. He called Piastri's mistakes learning opportunities, almost brushing off a jump start, an anti-stall, and a crash as if there were footnotes. But here's the uncomfortable question. Was Stella protecting Oscar or protecting the team's fragile image after Monza? Remember, this isn't just any rookie. Piastri's been ice cold since he arrived in F1, earning that silent assassin nickname for a reason. So when he suddenly looks clumsy, it's not just out of character, it's shocking. And Stella's insistence that we won't see this anymore almost feels too rehearsed, like he needed to shut down the whispers before they grew louder. Because make no mistake, after Monza, Norris has every reason to feel the tension. 2 races later, his title rival inside the same garage collapses under pressure. Coincidence or ripple effect? If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And stick around because in part 4, we'll expose the cracks in McLaren's own performance that Stella couldn't defend so easily. Stella may smooth over Piastri's errors, but even he couldn't ignore one brutal truth. McLaren is bleeding time in the pits. 2 slow stops in 2 races. In modern Formula 1, that's not a hiccup, it's a wound. And in Baku, it meant Norris lost the chance to attack Liam Lawson, leaving points on the table. Stella admitted it himself, pit stops are getting more and more important. But isn't that obvious? In a season where Verstappen is just 25 points behind Piastri, every 10th matters. Yet McLaren keep fumbling where Red Bull used to dominate, execution. And let's not forget, Stella also confessed the car simply didn't have the speed to fight on the long straights. Street circuits expose McLaren's weaknesses brutally, and Verstappen, the master of capitalizing on others' mistakes, knows it. So here's the dilemma. Is McLaren strong enough to support 2 title contenders, or are they about to collapse under the weight of fighting both Verstappen and themselves? Comment below. Who do you blame more right now? The drivers or the team? And don't go anywhere, because in part 5, we'll ask whether Monza planted a seed of mistrust that's now growing inside Woking. Let's rewind. Monza wasn't just another race, it was the flashpoint. Norris and Piastri went wheel-to-wheel in McLaren colors, sparks flying between teammates who were supposed to be united. Officially, the team downplayed it, but anyone who's watched F1 long enough knows these moments leave scars. Fast forward to Baku, and suddenly Piastri looks unsettled. A jump start isn't just eagerness, it's tension. Locking up into turn 5 isn't just misjudging grip, it's hesitation creeping into a driver who usually has ice in his veins. Was Monza the moment that cracked his composure? Meanwhile, Norris, calm, focused, and patient, keeps chipping away, even as pit stops rob him of glory. The civil war at McLaren may not be declared out loud, but you can feel it in the air. Stella says we won't see this anymore, but what if Monza ensured we will again and again? Smash that subscribe button if you think the McLaren story is only just beginning, because in part 6, we'll ask the real question: is Verstappen quietly becoming the biggest winner of this internal chaos? While McLaren wrestles with ghosts of Monza and mistakes in Baku, one man sits quietly in the shadows: Max Verstappen. And make no mistake, he smells blood. Andrea Stella admitted it himself. Verstappen is in contention for the Drivers' Championship. That's a remarkable statement because just weeks ago, Piastri looked untouchable at the top. But now, 2 bad weekends for McLaren, and suddenly, Max is only 25 points adrift. That's a single DNF away from turning the title picture upside down. And here's the kicker: Verstappen doesn't need to outdrive both McLarens. He just needs to wait. Wait for the pit crew to fumble. Wait for Norris and Piastri to clash. Wait for Stella's reassurances to turn into excuses. In a sport where momentum is everything, Verstappen thrives when his rivals start doubting themselves. So the question isn't just whether Piastri can bounce back, it's whether McLaren can protect him long enough before Verstappen takes control of the whole championship. Drop a comment. Is Verstappen already the psychological winner of Baku? And don't miss part 7, because that's where we break down whether Norris is secretly positioning himself as McLaren's real number 1. While Piastri stole headlines with his crash, look closer at Norris. 2 races in a row sabotaged by slow pit stops. A car that couldn't unleash its full potential on the streets of Baku. Yet through it all, Norris stayed composed, scored points, and crucially, kept himself in the hunt. Andrea Stella even admitted no other driver in Lando's car could have scored more. That's more than praise. It's recognition. Norris is quietly proving he can extract everything, even when the team doesn't deliver. And in Formula One, that's the trait of a team leader. Here's the irony. McLaren crowned Piastri the championship leader, the silent assassin. But now, it's Norris who looks like the one carrying the team on his shoulders. Is this the start of a power shift inside Woking? Fans have already coined it McLando, the civil war where Norris rules by patience, not fireworks. If you think Norris deserves that number 1 status, hit the like button, because in part 8, we'll close the story with the biggest question of all. Can McLaren survive this internal war long enough to actually win a championship? So here we are, Piastri, the silent assassin, suddenly shaken. Norris, the calm operator, quietly staking his claim. Pit stops collapsing under pressure. And Verstappen, the predator, waiting for the weakest moment to strike. Andrea Stella insists this is all just learning, but history tells us something different. When a team fights a championship on 2 fronts, against rivals and themselves, it rarely ends well. Think back to Hamilton and Rosberg at Mercedes, Alonso and Hamilton at McLaren. These battles don't just decide races, they define legacies. The question isn't only whether Piastri can recover from Baku or whether Norris can finally break through to victory. The real question is, can McLaren hold it together long enough to beat Verstappen, or will their civil war hand Red Bull the title on a silver plate? I want to hear it from you. Is this just a bump in the road for McLaren or the beginning of their unraveling? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with every F1 fan who lives for the drama, because this season, it's far from over.